I think it's time I finally settled my past too. It's going to be a long one, but this is a real-life turmoil I went through. At that time, my family consisted of my husband, our 5-year-old daughter, our 3-year-old son, and I was pregnant with twins. It's about when our family of 4 suddenly became a family of 6. Already having 2 children, the pregnancy with twins was unexpected for me, but my husband and I had always dreamed of a big family, so we were thrilled at such good fortune. My husband and I were old friends from back home, and we continued to live in our hometown after getting married. We had a good marriage, living a very ordinary life and happily raising our children. The pregnancy with twins was really tough. It was a physically and mentally demanding time, unlike anything I had experienced with my previous pregnancies. Yet, the twins grew healthily inside me and were born safely via cesarean section. I became the mother of 4 children. I properly met the twins for the first time the day after they were born. At that time, my husband also held the twins for the first time, and we had a moment of happiness in the hospital room. He looked completely mesmerized by the newborns. "Thank you, honey, for giving birth to such beautiful children, not just 1 but 2. Leave the home and the kids to me during your hospital stay, and just rest up," he said with gratitude. Right after I smiled back gratefully to my reliable husband, he muttered something unbelievable. "I'm a dad of 5 now. I've got to really buckle down at work." His eyes were moist with emotion over the birth of the twins, his face a picture of solemn resolve. The moment seemed to freeze when he spoke. I thought I had misheard and asked him to repeat himself. "What did you just say?" "Oh, nothing. No, I heard you clearly. What's this about 5 kids? We have 4. Silence will only make things weirder. Just tell me the truth." "Well, the thing is, I have another child, not yours." "What? Were you married before we got married?" "No, it's not that, it's just, the child is due next year." What is he talking about? So why say it now? Don't beat around the bush. You've been having an affair, is that what you're saying? Well, I guess that's one way to put it. I've been meaning to talk to you about it. If it's true that my husband has another child, it means he has betrayed our family, engaging in infidelity elsewhere. I was bewildered by my husband's casual admission of such a significant betrayal, especially right after the twins were born. The timing, the fact that he would confess while holding our child, looking back, is just insane. But then he said something even more absurd. The woman was demanding recognition of the child and child support from him, and he was planning to comply. "But I don't plan to divorce you, honey. She's aware of that, so it won't affect our family. I just want to acknowledge the child, that's all." I was beyond anger, I found myself laughing. I couldn't forgive my husband. But realistically, divorce seemed too difficult. Could I raise 4 children on my own, especially with newborn twins? My mother passed away early, and since her death, my father has been living alone in a neighboring state. I couldn't start working until the younger kids were in daycare, and having been a full-time homemaker since marriage, I was uncertain if I could even find a job. Night after night, I lay awake thinking that maybe if I just put up with my husband, considering him merely as an ATM, it might be less hard for the children and myself. I needed to firm up my own resolve during my hospital stay, otherwise, the matter would be swept under the rug once I was overwhelmed with caring for the twins after discharge. But I still couldn't forgive my husband. Yet, the thought of divorce faced huge obstacles. I was at a loss, exhausted even by the thought of what to do, when I learned another horrifying truth. I had been in the hospital for about 2 weeks after giving birth when a close friend from my hometown came to visit. Since I couldn't find any answers on my own, I decided to confide in her about my husband. Then, apologetically, she told me what she knew. His affair partner lived in the same area and went to the same elementary and middle schools a grade below me. I recognized the name immediately. Our families and even my husband's family would know her. Moreover, among my husband's friends, the relationship between this woman, let's call her Miss A, and my husband seemed to be an open secret. She was always present at his friends' gatherings, openly flirting without shame. I disliked the local customs and never attended drinking parties with my husband's friends, so they must have felt free to act without concern for me. Finding out that it was an open secret made me furious. I was the only one left in the dark. The next day, my in-laws came to see their grandchildren. Believing I had a good relationship with them, I decided to bring up my husband's affair. To my surprise, they already knew about the relationship between my husband and Miss A. It's bad to have an affair, but maybe our son just got carried away? What's done is done. As a father, he should naturally take responsibility. With your husband's income, another child won't affect your family financially. It's his money to pay. You shouldn't make such a fuss. They kept defending their son, which left me dumbfounded. When did they come to know about their son's affair? I had thought they were kind grandparents, but at that moment, I realized our relationship had only been superficial. Seeing their reaction, I immediately wanted to leave this town. If such connections existed within this small community, what would happen when my children started school and possibly ended up in the same class as Miss A's child? Even if we didn't meet at school, if both parents and friends already knew, I couldn't stay there, nor could my children face whatever judgment might come. It's unfair to Miss A's child too. The parents around know it's a child from an affair. This, along with my husband's nonchalance, drove me to decide on a divorce. There are plenty of assistance programs and benefits available. I learned about these systems at that time and they really helped me. After deciding to divorce, I spoke with my father, who lives in the countryside. Without any objections, he simply said, "There's a house here, so come live with us." His few words were incredibly reassuring at that time, offering me the only support I felt I had, and I cried with relief. I hadn't talked to him earlier, thinking I would be a burden, returning to my hometown as a divorced mother of 4, but I wished I had spoken sooner. About a week after returning home from the hospital, once the children had settled down for the night, I brought up divorce with my husband. "I can't forgive you. Not just you, but your affair partner, Miss A, your friends, and your parents. I can't forgive anyone. I hate this place. So, I'm taking the kids and leaving. Let's get a divorce. Do whatever you want with acknowledgement or remarrying." I said I won't divorce. Really, if I just acknowledge the child, everything will be fine. Remarriage is out of the question. I don't want to be away from my kids and you, honey. You were the one who strayed first. Stop with the convenient excuses. My parents live for their grandchildren. If we divorce, you're taking that away from them. Another grandchild is coming next year. They can dote on that child. I don't want your parents, who condone their son's infidelity, to adore my kids as their grandchildren. I'm their son too. Of course, they want to defend me. And don't you realize how divorce will affect the children's lives? Our oldest daughter understands what divorce means. Nothing is more traumatic for children than their parents' divorce. Which do you think affects the children more, a parent's affair or a divorce? You're the one causing pain to the children. The reason for the divorce is you. Why do you assume we have to proceed with divorce? Miss A says she'll raise the child alone. Our family life won't change at all, and it won't cause you any trouble, so why be so stubborn? If you divorce me, you and the children will struggle. Just calm down and make a rational decision now, I'm begging you. This is a condensed version, but such conversations went on forever. He must be the one to suffer financially after the divorce, so he's trying to avoid it at all costs. Incredible. Even now, thinking back makes my blood boil. The shallowness of believing that simply acknowledging everything would smooth things over, I was truly amazed. I made sure to demand alimony at that time. It seems my husband never expected me to be the one to bring up divorce, but he started panicking for real when I mentioned alimony. Moreover, as soon as I said I'd demand it from Ms. A, he turned pale and fled into the room. Our walls are thin, so even with the door closed, I could hear voices and noises clearly. It seems he immediately called Ms. A. "It's bad, she's talking about divorce. She says she'll demand alimony from both of us." I could hear my husband's voice. By this time, I was struggling to hold back my laughter. I couldn't hear her voice, but from my husband's tone, I could tell Ms. A was also panicking.
What the heck? Why should I pay your own alimony? If we divorce, I'd have to pay alimony plus child support for 4 kids. How can you even say that? Don't mess with me.
Initially, they were whispering, but by the end, they were shouting loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. The call with Ms. A ended with my husband hanging up angrily. Soon after, he started another call. This time, it seemed to be with his mother. I wanted to hear their conversation, but right then, the twins started crying, so I couldn't catch what was said. But the next morning, my in-laws came storming over. If only they were decent people, I might have considered letting them see the kids. But their attitude when they barged in was atrocious. Apparently, they rushed over in a panic after last night's call from their son. As my husband said, the worst thing for them seemed to be the prospect of not seeing their grandchildren. There's no need to go as far as a divorce. Ms. A doesn't intend to marry our son anyway. Could you not overlook this matter for the sake of the wife? If I were in your shoes, I wouldn't divorce for the children's sake. That's right. I understand you're emotional, but this isn't just a matter between the two of you. How will you support 4 kids on your own? We'll take care of this situation, so you don't need to worry. Without a single word of apology or comfort, they just tried to manipulate me into doing what their son wanted. I decided this would be the last time I'd meet this family and chose to speak my mind without holding back.
What are you talking about? Your son committed adultery. He betrayed his family and even had a child with his mistress. I'm actually more worried about my children having such a person for a father. Instead of getting angry with your adulterous son, you're defending him. Were you aware of your son's affairs before I was? And now it's the talk of the town, and you still show your faces outside? Parents of an adulterer, aren't you ashamed? With that kind of attitude, how dare you tell me to endure or overlook? So, Emil, you would overlook if your husband had an affair and a secret child? I'm not so magnanimous. Hey, who do you think you're talking to like that? Be quiet. Whose fault do you think this is? Really irresponsible and selfish. Instead of yelling at me, you should be apologizing. That's why I'm saying we should divorce. Not recognizing mistakes and forcing the other person to just deal with it seems to be the family's teaching, right? Well, I'm done with this family. And of course, from now on, stay away from my children.
Saying that, I thrust the green divorce papers in front of my husband. The in-laws were stunned by my unexpected stance, but their expressions changed the moment I said to stay away from the kids, and they started behaving outrageously.
The children aren't just yours, you know? They're our grandchildren too. We won't allow you to get divorced or deny us visitation.
My MIL started yelling like I'd never seen before. Seeing me stand up, my FIL tried to block me from entering the kids' room, spreading his arms in front of the door.
What are you doing? We won't hand over the children. I won't let you open this until you call off the divorce. Mom, open the door. I'm scared. Is this a threat? Please open the door. The kids are crying.
Still, my FIL wouldn't open the door, and I felt madness in him, while my MIL even ran to block the front door. At that moment, my husband was tearing up the divorce papers I had handed him. This family was just too creepy. The house was in chaos, and I didn't know what to do, when suddenly, the front door opened, and my MIL sat down with a foolish expression. It was my father who came in.
Dad, huh? Brother.
Hey. Long time no see, Kathy. I heard about your trouble from Dad, so we came to see you here. With the arrival of my father and brother, my husband and in-laws panicked. My father, without even looking at the in-laws' family, said to me, "Let's just take you and the kids' things for now."
Well, what are you doing, Dad? We're moving. Don't interfere. What? You can't just do whatever you want. Old man, be quiet. What are you doing, locking up the kids? Imprisonment? Move, or I'll call the cops.
My brother's stern voice made my FIL step back, and as soon as my brother entered the kids' room, my daughter with tears in her eyes clung to his leg. What? Uncle! The kids were overjoyed to see their long-lost uncle. Please, stop this! I'll apologize as much as you want, just stop this. Why? I asked for this. It's too late for apologies now. I also started preparing to leave with the twins. Please, this is too much. At least leave the kids. That's not for you to decide. Attention everyone. Who wants to move to the countryside and live with Grandpa? Me. Following their energetic eldest sister, the younger brother also smiled and said, Me. Really? You won't be sad not seeing Dad? Yep, Uncle is better. Why? Your dad feels sad if you say such a thing. Grandma is also sad. Why? You all lock us up and bully Mom. I hate it. Right, if someone bullies the person you love most in the world, of course, you'd hate them. Yeah. So, when are we going? Right now. We're going in Uncle's big car. Yay! With that, the kids rushed to my brother's van, breaking away from the in-laws. My father finished loading the truck, and I got into my brother's car with the twins. Finally, my father said to my husband, I can't leave my daughter with a man who commits adultery. You'll surely be punished. With that, he drove away. I had already submitted a transfer notice to the kindergarten and said goodbye to the teachers and fellow parents. Actually, I already told my kids the last day of kindergarten. I had done everything I could during the hospital stay. I found a lawyer specializing in divorce and immediately demanded alimony from both of them. This time, due to the pregnancy caused by the affair, and the mistress also being pregnant, it was deemed highly malicious, and I successfully obtained a significant amount in alimony from both parties. The division of assets and child support payments were also settled according to my wishes, and the divorce from my husband was finalized. With the help of my father and brother, I somehow managed to settle into a new life in a new place. I was worried about the sudden change for the kids, but they quickly adapted to the new daycare and seemed happy every day. Before my eldest daughter started elementary school, I changed the kids' last names to my maiden name. Without worrying about others' opinions, we lived freely and happily. My brother, still unmarried, has been running his own company since he was young. This time, I only consulted with my father, but he must have told my brother. There's a piece of land nearby, left unused by our grandfather, but now my father and brother are developing it. It might take decades, but they're planting many cherry trees, aiming to turn it into a famous cherry blossom spot. Thus, my brother often comes to the countryside, and each time, the kids run around there, getting all muddy. It's a unique countryside experience. According to a small story I heard from a friend, right after the divorce, Mrs.'s belly was significantly larger, and she moved into the house where we used to live, supposedly remarrying my ex-husband. The child was born safe, but they separated within a year. The reason seems to be that the child wasn't my ex-husband's. They're still in the middle of a messy court battle. Seems like Ms. A was only after the money for raising the child. Thus, our divorce was nothing but an inconvenience for her. As for me, it's all in the past now, and having gotten this off my chest, I feel even more relieved.